What's up, everybody? This is Taylor Gray. Welcome to COVID Community, the podcast that has been organically improving, hopefully, over the past, now we on week 9, the past 9 weeks. Y'all been with us for 9 weeks. We're getting ready to wrap up our season of podcasting. This is going to go the maximum 10 weeks. So we're at week 9. And we've had some really dope conversations leading up to this point. And appreciate y'all rocking with us. Got my co-host with me here, Armand. How you doing, bro? How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm really good.
Yeah.
I got a haircut.
You know what I'm saying?
The last time you asked me how I was doing on this platform, I was not doing well.
Yeah, I didn't get a haircut this week. I think part of that was conviction. Part of that was my barber told me he wasn't available. So, you know.
It's more the latter than the
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I feel the solidarity of last week. So, good is good. To hear that you're doing good, like, you know, that could mean a lot of different things. And we like to at least check in. We're in a different phase than when we first started. But it's good to see that good remains constant. We got a guest with us today, man. My brother, his brother, many of our brothers, Jonathan Baker, aka JB, aka a bunch of names that he left behind when he got saved. You know,
True story.
What's good with you, bro?
I'm good, man. This is good to be a part of this organic community that has come together. I'm honored to be here, man, for real.
Yes, and I want everybody to see the Nothing's Wrong movement is alive and well. I know your beard could probably cover that, but you know, make sure people know nothing's wrong.
That's right. That's the mantra. You ask me, I'm gonna tell you that every time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we got
Wait, hold on. How are you doing?
Man, you was going.
I was about to go into it.
Listen.
Nah, you just ask us.
I'm doing well this week, man. I would say doing well like takes effort.
Yes.
You know, it's not just like a state of being all the time. Sometimes you gotta get to a place where you say it's well or I'm doing well. And there's been a lot of like political stuff happening right now that's just been in my mind, and I have definitely been tapping into spiritual truth that doesn't change. So that's what I needed to get to get to a place where I say I'm doing well.
Good. There it is.
Yes. So yeah. This week, man, it's hard to have JB as a guest and really like narrow down what we want to talk about, because we could talk about so many things that we already do. It's just everything's on the table. But first, I wanted to ask y'all like how y'all felt about the Last Dance documentary. By the time people hear this, it's going to be a little bit further past, but they still talking about it in the media. How y'all feeling?
Greatest sports documentary, man. I feel like it was super dope. Not just because, you know, like I speak from a biased standpoint because I'm a Bulls fan, but just from, and not just pulling out good points from the documentary, but holistically, just how it was done. You know, small stuff like what's my man Jason Hare giving the iPod to the people, like getting real-time reactions, right? Like how it was presented was super dope, and it was very modern, even with capturing some of the stuff from back then and making it relevant to now. I think the presentation was just phenomenal, in my opinion.
So you don't agree with Horace Grant saying it's not a documentary?
I mean, no. I don't agree.
Shout out to Horace.
Shout out to Horace, though.
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
It was, I loved it. I need 10 more weeks.
Bruh.
I need 2 parts, 10 weeks.
Yo.
I want to hear about Judge Bushler. I want to hear about the 10 Floyd years. I want them to just make up some stuff. I want them to take us through every single game of every season. Like just find ways to stretch it. I'm cool with that.
Yo, find ways. Like stop acting like like Judd wasn't in there about the tip dunk misses.
You know what I'm saying?
He was out there. You know what I'm saying?
What was Dickie Simpkins thinking about during this time?
Bruh.
You know what I'm saying?
Bison Dele.
Bison Dele, Brian Williams, right?
Yeah, I didn't see enough Randy Brown.
Nah.
Just the point when Jordan made him call him Jesus or something.
Yeah, to get some tickets.
Does anybody else want to know why Randy Brown was thinking he was going to get the ball like after the '96 championship?
Yeah,
Like,
the Father's Day ball.
Does
Like,
anybody else want to know why he was doing that?
That made me so mad in the moment. Like,
Bro.
why are you exerting this much energy to take? You don't have the right to touch the same ball that Michael Jordan holds.
Yo.
So fall back, and he was really trying to get it.
Get the game 5 ball.
Like, you play good defense.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, get the game that matters to you. It's Father's Day, like that. No.
Yeah.
Fall back.
I would push back. I would push back because there are some things about the documentary that I wasn't super crazy about. It did turn into like a Jordan Fluff piece at times.
Yep.
It's really interesting that Jordan was kind of like afraid that people would look at him differently, and I actually think that this helped him out a ton.
Yep.
I think people are looking at him even more favorably now.
Yep.
Another pushback is I spent a lot of money on like clothes and sneakers.
Yes.
It worked.
It worked. I was on GOAT a lot, like
The power of marketing.
I mean, like the value of the resale value of all the Jordans that they showcased went up. Like Chicago ones are like, I think they're up to like $1,500 now. You know what I'm saying? White cement 4s are at like $500. The last shot 14s, which sat, are now for like $400, $500, $600.
Crazy.
Like,
They sat, bro.
They sat. And the other thing I say is that it's one of my favorite sport documentaries of all time. I would have to think about like greatest in terms of, I think Sebastian Telfair's Through the Fire is great, Hoop Dreams is great, Soul in the Hole is great.
Yeah.
But 30 for 30s, the only one I have above The Last Dance is the OJ one.
The OJ was crazy.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
It's fine.
the social connection, those are things that I didn't know. You know, my favorite part is him showing up in the church with the dashiki after he, you know what I'm saying? Like the black church embraced him, and then he ended up on like the Playboy channel. It's just so crazy.
Yeah, he went through at least 4 different transformations during that documentary. Just remembering, I guess I was young, back in '94, like I didn't really know, I was like 10 years old. So I didn't know, obviously, the complexities, but yes, to see the juice in his full form, like in college, and then kind of evolve into the, I'm not black, I'm O.J. Simpson, obviously you make that connection to Jay-Z and the story of O.J., and then him literally, the system told him he was black before he had to embrace his blackness. Like, you're just guilty. And at the end of the day, he is guilty in my opinion. Like, I'm sorry. I think he did it. I don't think that there's any question of it. But society at the time was willing to forgive it because of the Rodney King situation. And it was crazy just to see that, like, that's what like really made the decision. It was like an eye for an eye.
I can't think of the name of it, but there's a documentary on Netflix. I think it's called LA 92, and there's a documentary that talks about the history of the tension between the LAPD and black and brown people before OJ, or before Rodney King. It starts in like the late 70s. It builds up.
Riots.
I cannot think of that. I'll try to find it, tweet it out or something. But like, if you can watch that documentary, it's amazing.
It's amazing. But I mean, listen. So both of y'all are Hoopers, and speaking of documentaries, are And One tapes in some ways document?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because then that would have to like really make me rethink, because And One mixtape, like, moments, the times you got to get to know the actual players, the half man, half amazings, the hot sauce, obviously, Skip. man, those gave a picture of the streets in like a different type of ways to play basketball, or a different way to engage with basketball, should I say. Like, and it opened us up to another world. So when you say top, I think that's up there, because I agree with you just as far as the holistic execution, the timing, everything involved. I'm with you. It's number one for me.
Yeah.
I just have a bunch of 1A's down there.
Yeah, and one of the things, like the pushback that you had, I had some pushbacks as well, because like you bring up an and one, right, and how they went through every player and where they came from, right? Like that gave you a better understanding of like why they were the way that they were on and off the court. You know, like cats. You know, you see a cat like 50, you ain't just gonna walk up and ask him questions just because of his looks, but. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see what he does, and you're like, yo, like, I want to know, like, and you see where he comes from, and like all of that. Like, I feel like with that, like, there could have been more, you know, exposure with the players, but of course, you know, the reason why is whatever. But that would be like my pushback. Like, people want to know, like, what these other players meant in the grand scheme, and like it wasn't just Jordan. Kind of like what we was talking about with Karl Malone. Like, no, I didn't play Jordan. I played the Bulls, and that's like with him killing us the way that he did. Like, he would know. Like, each player had something to do with like why they couldn't, you know what I'm saying, get over the hump. So.
Yeah, it told me more about the people who decided not to get interviewed.
Facts.
Man, so much more.
So I saw John Stockton, and I was just like, they don't have a comment from Karl Malone? Like,
Jeff Hornacek?
I mean, fam, he went and dapped him up at the end of the, like,
They were waiting at the end of the tunnel just to dap them up, and they left.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really subtle part that like nobody talked about. That was very interesting.
Which was also fire with the moment between him and Larry Bird. Like, that's one of my favorite moments.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because it really showed like the relationship. Like, you know, he came to talk trash at the end, and he just had to accept it. My takeaway, one of my takeaways, is that I would love to see a documentary in a similar fashion, broken down over a longer period of time, of Rodman, specifically the year that he came to be a part of the Bulls, like the 95-96 season of Dennis Rodman, like transitioning from something into a historic team, but still maintaining Rodman persona. You know what I'm saying?
Have you seen his 30 for 30?
I have, but I felt like they had to condense a lot. I mean, they had to, like, because even in this documentary, they gave us glimpses of things that were not talked about in the 30 for 30. So I'm like, there's way more to Rodman.
Like, how much more?
Yeah, we need to talk about who he is. And, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So yeah, it was a great documentary. The timing, I love the fact that the younger generation had to sit down and watch and learn and feel it, and now it's making all of the NBA players thirsty to come back and play. You know.
They said the league is starting July 15th, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with what Tracy McGrady said. Like, he was like, yo, I wish this documentary came out when I was younger, because it gave me so much of like, I'm taking everybody's head off now, like, as opposed to like, everybody want to play team ball, like, let's join team. Like, nah, I am fighting for something, and we gonna fight until we get it. Like, we don't see a lot of that. We kind of got a glimpse of that with, you know, the back and forth, you know, Warriors and Cavs. Like, there was a lot of fight in that series, you know, like the 4 times that they did play. But like the last time you seen that was 08, and then 9 and 10 with the Lakers, and so like that was the last time you saw like teams who like fought for something and like it represented something. After that, it was like you had this little moment where everybody was like, "Oh, let's just join teams and let's just be cool." And like, nah, like somebody like Tracy is coming to bust cats' heads like every game. You know what I'm saying? So
All the way. I love hearing other NBA players talk about it. Just it's beautiful. But at the end of the day, like, it had to end. To me, like, I agree with you guys. Jordan came out looking better. Like, the Gary Payton moment was like singularly. Oh my gosh, man! It was so pure. Like, it was all you had to do was film him watching someone else say that they thought they did a good job on it. And it was gold.
And the caption is, I had no problem with the
I had no. For me, it was more of the way he handed the pad back and said the glove. He made fun of his name. He made fun of his nickname, like the glove. Like
the chuckle, like the glove.
the glove, ladies and gentlemen. With no championships, with no outcome. So yeah, it was really good.
We could talk about this for an hour, and I want to move on, but I do have a question. How much bigger did your T-shirt get after watching And One Volume 3?
Yo,
when Hot Sauce put the ball in his shirt and spin it around.
Well, first of all, shout out to Dipset for always having 5X tees. Like you already had that a part of your wardrobe. But then when you could hoop with it, right? Like that just like, and I could hoop with a do-rag too.
Right, yeah.
Like
with the do-rag.
So I'm out here like
musty do-rag. Those were part of my
I
life.
woke up with it on, like I didn't take it off.
You take it off the hand, wash it in the sink, and then hang it up.
Yeah.
Terrible, but
5X.
Yeah, 5X. Like I worked at Champs when the tape
5 for 20.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I was so yes, the 5 for 20 and the tapes like were there.
Yep.
You know, like well, they were being sold at Foot Action,
Yeah.
but we were able to access them because we had relationships with people at the Foot Action.
Yep.
But bro, like it was a beautiful marketing ploy.
Absolutely.
Like the tees flew off the shelves, like blank tees.
Blank tees. Because you had to buy And One gear to get the tape.
Yeah.
I remember walking into a Foot Action and they like made me get the tape. Like, yo, you want this tape? It's you like basketball, right? And I was like, yeah, but I don't really need it. They're like, no, here, take it. And I ended up buying some And One shorts, brought the tape to school. The tape circulated like crack. Like it was a wrap. It's something to say about the league, and those two things connect because that is a post-Jordan NBA. And during that time, David Stern and the league were looking for a new face. And so they wanted the face to be Tim Duncan, the Spurs, and we was like, nah. The face of the league is Allen Iverson. And Allen Iverson represented that And One style. Cornrows, shooting sleeves, baggy shorts, long tees. Like, that was our representation because we knew that the And One guys weren't going to get a real shot in the league. So the closest we had was Iverson. So a lot of people, when we talk about influence and who you wanted to be like, the same way these kids want to be like 7 now and jack up threes from 40 feet, after Mike, everybody wanted to be like AI. And I think the And One tape helped with that.
100%. 100%.
And shout out to Rafer Alston.
Yes.
AKA
He made it.
Because like you started to see like as those videos started to come out, like AO was actually like in different NBA arenas, like trying to make it to the league. You know what I'm saying?
Hey yo, shout out to AO, man. I really liked his game.
Philly, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Yo, but you start to see that, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then even like when that he represented something when he got to the league too, you know what I mean? Like that was like, yo, street ball. Like we
Was not a bust.
Bruh.
Had a decent career.
Yes.
Yeah. Woo. Okay, yeah, we can talk this, and we didn't even go into the greatest of all time debate. We will not do that because I'm sure we're all on the same page on who that is. So it would probably be better if we had another side to argue with. So we have the pleasure of talking and building a relationship with one another because we share a connection in music, being music artists and doing music together and with similar relationships that we have with other people. So I went on like a little Twitter spree the other day, just kind of like, you know, spilling out how I felt about like some of the industry, you can call industry, guidelines of not just making good music, but making sure it becomes visible. Making sure that a maximum amount of people can engage with it. And then within that, you talk about audience, you know, because I think we all make music with a certain kind of audience in mind. You know, at least people who feel similarly to us, or people we can imagine rocking with the music if we did live shows. Like, we at least have a picture of like, yo, man, this kind of group would be dope to actually perform in front of, or to give an opportunity to engage with our music.
Right.
But I think, you know, as Christians, as followers of Jesus, we have had opportunities to engage with the platforms that make our music visible, but we also understand that those platforms don't really speak to our audience. They don't speak to a variety of audiences. Like, it's only kind of one primary audience, and that's the audience that spends money. So I guess what I would like to do is just open up a bit more of a conversation, just to talk about, you know, what's you guys' experience with that? Like, what's a pain point? Like, what's a frustration? What is a hope that a hope for the future? Something that should change now, yesterday, last week, about the way Christians who are artistic and trying to create music, about ways that they can be heard and seen and pursue this as a career.
Yeah, well, first thing I think about, like, when you present that, I think about how boxed in Christian music is just as a whole. Not just from, you know, the Christian hip hop spaces. Like, we could spend a lot of time in that position and talk about it for a while, but just Christian music as a whole, I feel like it's so boxed in, and we box it in sometimes. Like,
so when you say Christian music, are you talking about Christians who make music, or are you talking about the genre that gets selected when
the latter.
Okay.
Yeah, the latter. And with that, you know what I'm saying? So
Wait, get your point.
no, he's ready to get his bars.
I'm gonna say something. No, go ahead.
But you know, here's the thing, like, so the reason I think about that, like, my own experience, like, I've been hit up by, like, a lot of, like, the bloggers, like, who search for my music because they have a lot of people hitting them up about, like, well, we want some R&B, we want some soul, we want some, like, because it's so saturated with the same thing. And we talk about this all the time. We're not gonna fight to be in a saturated market. Like, we don't have a reason to fight when we do have an audience that we've already kind of curated and created who appreciate our music, you know what I'm saying? And so with that being said, like, there's no reason to fight. We don't make that type of music,
Right.
one. And the second, we're not about to create this unnecessary fight when we don't make that type of music.
Right.
And so when you have these people like, yo, like, well, what else is out there? And then they keep feeding them, like, it's almost like you feel like they gotta keep making that music to kind of keep, and sometimes it's not authentic. You know, you're just getting a template of what people have created, and it's like, and everybody's kind of been there too. Like, you know, when you wanted to get on these sites, like, you felt like that was the music you had to make to get a look. And it's like, well, what is the look? Like, define the look. Like, are you just trying to get on that site and you think that that's gonna take you across the world? Or, like, are you working on, like, whatever your sound is and then let them find you? You know what I'm saying? Like, that, for me, that was kind of like, okay, like, I started to see, like, kind of like the tides changing and people were really looking for something different. So that's why I say that, like, because, like, the people who own the blogs or the people, you know, different, right, they coming to me like, yo, like, yeah, I'm trying to put people onto your music because they're looking for it, and it's not a lot of people who do the type of music that you do, you know what I'm saying? And the names that come up, you know, your brother, myself, Sean Johnson, it's like, who else after that? You know what I'm saying? Like, those are like the top three names, like, and, you know, when it comes to that genre, like, that can do other things, like, in that soul world or whatever, like, why isn't that being, you know, more accepted? Because I know it ain't just us that create that type of music, you know what I'm saying? And it should be getting more looks, but it does, like, we should see, it shouldn't be a fight to do that, right? Like,
Yeah, but there's reasons for that, and I think some of the gatekeepers have been kind of trained into this ideology of making people go through a meaningless process
Right.
in order to be seen and heard. And so, like, just for instance, like, you know, I had a conversation years ago, I had a conversation with this dude who was a writer and photographer for Rapzilla a while ago, and in a song that I wrote a while ago called Scapegoats, I said, you know, I don't fit on Rapzilla. That was kind of like the paraphrase of the bar. And he basically responded to me in person in a way where he took that to mean that I was taking a shot at Rapzilla.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm stating a fact. Like, you guys don't lift up or make music like mine visible. Like, there's no way for me to fit in here unless I change my sound to become the thing that you feel like drives your traffic.
Yep.
So it wasn't even necessarily a shot, but if you took it that way, then maybe there's some things that you need to reevaluate. And at the end of the day, why are you so sensitive?
Yeah.
You know, and why can your sensitivity like literally take away an opportunity for you to increase the variety of art and style of music that people can interact with? Because yes, there are soul artists out there, but if you're not in a position to say, look, my platform is something that I take seriously as a responsibility to help people engage with all kinds of music.
Yeah.
I use my platform to do that. If you don't have that mentality and you don't approach it that way, then you're going to literally just continue with the status quo because you feel like it's going to make money.
Yeah. You got some bars to get
Oh
out.
yeah, no, I'm letting everybody get their verses in. You know what I'm saying? I go last.
And I'm gonna go ahead and say this because it's probably a lot of people think about this and they just won't say it. Like, a lot of those cats are scared for whatever reason. Whether you're scared, you know, that like you're not gonna have the same following that you did because of the template, like we haven't gone with the mode or what we expected it to be, or you know, the fear may come like these guys are actually better than what we've been putting out. And like that's gonna mess up their track record or mess up like their following or and it's like, yo, like we were talking about earlier with the documentary or basketball as a whole, like you get to see why everybody playing a role makes the team better, right? Like we all can, and me and Armand have this conversation a lot, like we don't have to do it ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that is presented so heavily when it comes to music. Like there's a prideful nature of like, I did this and I've been working 10, 15 years and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, yo, well, where's the people? Like, you would get a lot further had you had people who come as a collective, help you with writing, help you with promotion, help you with marketing, help you with an audience. So, like, all of this stuff, like, you could get help with, but people are scared because, like, there's a level to it in their minds. Like, you know, like, well, we all gotta get to the Lecrae level, and then we're straight, like, we're making it. Or we're all gonna get to the social club level, and then we're making it. And it was like, no, like, that doesn't define anything. That's just where they're going and what they're doing. And it's like, yo, if you get, like you said, if you get in your mind like, I'm initially getting in this to help somebody, you can see how much it helps yourself in the end, you know what I mean?
100%, yeah. Verse 3, you know, I don't know if a lot of people listen to verse 3, but we're gonna get a verse. you got a verse.
If it's verse 3, you know
That's
that's
on verse you can think of like Three Kings with Ross, Dre, and Jay.
What's free?
And yeah, Jay comes on at the end of What's Free,
Right.
And raps with 89 bars.
Or the beat changes in verse 3,
Or the beat
and it makes you like, oh snap! Like,
Biggie on It's All About the Benjamins.
Yep.
Yep. So what I want to do first is I want to acknowledge that I would say that all three of us, a percentage of our audience does come from the fact that, and Rapzilla is often like the poster boy of this, but there's, you know, Jam the Hype, if you're older, the South.com, like
Right,
H2O,
right.
like Spirit of Hip Hop, shout out to Josh, and like,
Shout out.
so like all three of us have benefited off of the blogs posting us because it's not like they haven't.
Absolutely.
So I want to say that shout out to Chad at Rapzilla, shout out to Steve at Rapzilla, like two guys that I still talk to like to this day.
Absolutely.
disclaimer.
Yo.
Shout out to all of y'all, but that was a major disclaimer.
It was.
Yeah.
So when I say this, like, and if somebody sees this, I want them to run back and be like, yo, they was like.
Right.
I don't care. Just
So-
say what you need to say.
So-
because they will.
Because they will. So I think what's important to recognize, first of all, is that to your point, a lot of people saw what Lecrae did, and then they attached ministry to that, and they assumed that because God did that for you, then God is going to do that for me. And it became the way that people got on. Because honestly, if we're honest, before we get on the blogs, like, folks' hearts wasn't right. Their motives were off, and they weren't checking them.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So their reasoning for getting into music was the same reason that we was doing it before we was rapping for Jesus. And like, the reality of that is I don't think that ever goes away for most people.
Right.
There's always going to be that internal struggle because hip hop, like you said, is a very prideful sport. So of course, I want to be the best. I want to, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, I discipled young artists who would feel that way, and then they get upset when their music didn't reach a certain platform, or when they got posted on Rapzilla, it ain't really hit like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they got, okay, sure, they got 1,000 plays, they got 1,500 plays, but then maybe they submitted something again and Rapzilla didn't post it. So now they feel like Rapzilla is obligated to post it every time they submit something.
Right.
And that's not the case.
Right.
What people did not take into account was that you were supposed to be building your audience to now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because what they're doing now, what it is now, honestly, the blogs are irrelevant.
Yes.
Nobody goes to blogs anymore for music. They go, it's direct to consumer market.
Yep.
So whoever follows me on social media, they're getting my music directly from me. There are some people who still like follow the older model, shout out to 4th District too. Like, still some people who do that. Shout out to Trackstars too, because they still support
Yeah,
us.
shout out to
Shout out to King. Over Trackstars. So like, the way it is now is like you should be cornering a sect of this room, and you should be pouring directly into that audience and getting as much stuff on streaming services as possible. You don't need a record deal. All you need is a yearly subscription to DistroKid. You know, finding that community like you talked about of other artists, producers, engineers that, you know, can formulate and cultivate your sound and are willing to help you as you are helping them push forward to like establish your thing.
Yeah.
And then the game is taking that to Bandcamp, or taking that to some other medium, taking it to your website where nothingswrong.com, taylorgray.com, or monwakeup.com, where people can directly connect with you, email lists. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the blogs they're dead. And if I'm totally honest, I'll share this. You know, Chad reached out to me like a year and a half ago and asked me to create content for Rapzilla. He saw my model ministry stuff, and he was like, well, we want to basically take that and put that on Rapzilla. So what that said to me was, okay, the blogs need us more than we need them, because they have to generate that content. And after a while, all those top tier artists that like the blogs was posting because they was making a lot of money off that ad space, they reached a certain level and they was like, I ain't fooling with Rapzilla no more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now we on ESPN. Now we on these we're on Complex, we're on these real platforms,
Right.
and basically like dismiss the blogs that got them there, which is foul.
Right.
And now that money's not there anymore because the industry has changed,
Right.
folks is calling back like, hey, can you get a feature on Rapzilla? Can you get an interview?
Yeah.
That platform is still present. You know what I'm saying? So like, I say all that to say, you have to learn how to adapt.
Yes.
Because as an artist, the game, oh my God, I went through a period as an artist where like, there was a 3 or 4 year period where I wasn't making music. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was dealing with life stuff, and I just didn't know how to like express that musically. And from 2014 to 2018, the game changed. And from 2018 to 2019, the game changed again. And now from last year to this year, the game has changed again. Post-coronavirus, the game has changed again. You have to be willing to adapt. And if a blog ain't posting you, like, you shouldn't feel away. At the same time, and I'm gonna pose this question back to y'all, because we're gearing up to release music. We've recently released music, and like, I can't tell you when's the last time I submitted music to a blog. phone. Like, I'm not sending y'all an email.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's pride or just like, I don't have, or the other thing that we also have to consider is that we're all men in our 30s with families and children.
Yeah.
I don't have time to play the game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna put it out, we gonna put out some music, and whoever get to it, get to it. I've been beefing with the algorithms for a year because it's a whole other conversation. We
Right.
can talk about the algorithms, we can talk about all the other stuff, but ultimately at the end of the day, whoever gonna get it, because I don't have time to sit up there and like retweet every 2 hours. Hey, did y'all hear me? Hey, did y'all hear me? No, I don't have time. I'm not gonna make time for that. So I don't know if any of that made sense or that, but like, yeah.
No, I mean it does make sense, and there's years and years of frustration that can just come out in one conversation or in one part of a conversation, because there is, I guess, some sort of expectation that things are better or things are handled better. You know what I mean? And then you think about, I guess, whatever people's critiques are of the church or your idea of the community of Christ, being Christ-like. These things that people say are so important, but it's almost like they use it as decorations for something that ultimately is being hidden. Like we're going to decorate something and make it look like what we want you to celebrate and be down for, but it's actually hiding what it really is. You feel me? So it's like the expectation for us to be Christians and support one another or lift each other up is like, that's biblical. That's stuff that you find in the Bible. But then you actually have to encounter people who have egos, who have, other kinds of money motives, and they want to be seen as important and popular and celebrity. And then all of that stuff just gets washed away. But make sure you put it in your lyrics. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you rap about it in the way that that's a church move. And you gotta rap about it in such a way that makes people convinced that you really are a believer. Like, you gotta convince other people that you are actually a believer in the way that they get to grade. In order for you to even make it to certain platforms.
And listen, this is all happening with the absence of discipleship.
Yes, exactly. There are people who are dying.
Yeah,
inside, like I'm
the
not
absence of it. Like, why do you think there were so many cats who just fell off, and it was such a big surprise,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
These cats, like, they weren't getting properly discipled, and it's like,
And we were plugged in nowhere. Like, never mind, discipleship was like the second step. They weren't even like plugged in, serving anywhere.
Yeah.
And like wasn't looking to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, so like if serving isn't like in the forefront already, like you're just looking to be served, right? Like,
Yep.
and so like since there's this motto that is all like I have to adapt to that, right? Like I can't adapt to anything else. You're just giving me the way, right, to adapt to, and that's all I know. Like, of course I'm gonna get eaten alive. Of course, like, there's gonna be this fall off because I'm not receiving anything from it, right? And there's nobody coming in to tell you, like, yo, like you need to do it another way, or yo, this is actually whack. Like, let's
No.
Like, yeah, like,
Stop, no, and don't.
yo, which is why we get along so well because we in the front, like, yo, like, nah, like, yo, I never forget. I did, and you might not even remember this. I did a mixtape. And I recorded this song called The Game, and I was excited about it being done. And I sent him an email. He was like, "You sound really different." Like that's all the email said. That's all that you said. Like, but it had a period. Like there was no emoji. Like there wasn't an emoji. Nothing. Like it. Like it was just like it sounds indifferent, or no, you sound indifferent. And I was like.
Gave the same thing to me about what?
I was like, oh snap! Like, and for a moment, I'm like, nah, bruh, I'm done. like this song is done.
Yes.
What do you mean?
It's coming out tomorrow. You were supposed to tell me it was great.
But then it
Like
goes
you said
back.
last
Yeah, I was about to say, but it goes back to the episode where you like, yo, like, don't come to me like with done music, and then like, yeah, I want you to listen to my records, and it, but like, what that did was like, no, that pushed me to like, I had somebody who disagreed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't as good as what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Did it initially hurt? Like, yeah, because you gotta fight through that. Like, but did it make me better? Yes. And because of that, now we're able to put out like, you know, the best music because we have those moments and we're able to like, you know, be there and say, you know what, like, no, there's better in you. Like, make sure you get that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna let you put out mediocre stuff, and I know that you got better in you.
Yeah, and I'm not about to like perform my affirmation for you and then have to keep that up. You know, like, you know,
Exactly.
so then you do it live and you remember what I told you, like, man, this is so dope. And then I'm at the show and I'm in the back like this, and you like, but you supposed to be up in the front, like jumping with me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is really how I feel. You find out when you have to perform it live.
Yep.
Like, I want to be a person that's going to be consistent all the way through. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean I have to be in opposition,
Right.
but I have to be who I really am. So you can know, like, yeah, Taylor thought that I could improve. I have people who do that for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? They give me feedback on a record. I still release it as is. I don't expect them to be like, yeah, it's out now. Like, you won't like this. You won't feel like, no, like it just is what it is. And then some people surprise you. They do. At the end of the song coming out, like, they hear it in a different context, and then they come back around and they say, yo, that grew on me.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Or it just hit different
Yep.
in this environment.
Yep.
So all of that kind of stuff just comes from a community of accountability and open, real, honest communication between one another. And that's not the culture that gets modeled to us on these platforms. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you can be shamed for saying that you want more people to hear your music as if you just have too much pride. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could just be shamed for that. And it's just like, well, I wasn't just making the music for me and my church home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was actually trying to pursue a broader stage or opportunity to share this with the world. So this is kind of how this works. So then you don't get to come shame me and say, "No, you need to be more humble, and actually you need to accept this doctrine, and
Right.
you know, this is how you need to talk to people." Like, fam, like, what are we even talking? Is the music good?
Yeah.
Because the stuff that you're putting out is not good.
It's not.
You know, and I feel a way. Like,
I can hear it.
if you're gonna tell me that's the only thing that's good, then that's when I have a problem.
Yeah.
Like, some people can feel it and like it and whatever, but if you're gonna tell me that's the only thing that's good, then I get in my bag. Like, I start writing different.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I start addressing it in my rhymes.
Yeah.
And again, like, this is no like personal beef with like Chad and all of them people like who are out there, or even Wado. Like you know, like sometimes I be like, man, like, really, bro? Like, you know, like there's a way to like share this a little more broadly. And these are my guys. Like, I've talked to Wado about some of this before, and I talked to some of these other guys behind the scenes. But bro, like, I'm at a stage now where I'm thinking about the generation to come.
Yep.
I'm thinking about, like, what are they going to have to engage with? What are they going to have to model? And then what do we have to teach them?
Absolutely.
And we can't be like sugarcoating it and being all safe and sorry and like, oh yeah, well, you know, just trust God, He's sovereign. Nah, bro, like, tell them what's wrong. Tell them what to avoid.
No.
Tell them not to waste their time doing this and get better. You feel me? Like, that's where I'm at.
Yo, so let me ask you a question, which probably a lot of people maybe want to ask, but they never had the opportunity to ask. What are the differences that you see from when you were just exclusively an artist to where you're now an artist pastor, to where you have a broader view of maybe different artists that are in the game? Like, you may have like looked at certain artists a certain way when you were just an artist, but then when you build relationship with them, right, and now you're a pastor, and then you see from a broader spectrum, like, what are some of the, you know, the differences that you see, you know, coming up in that?
Well, I think for me, man, like, Armand and I remember, I don't know if he remembers this, but I sat in his driveway of his apartment a long time ago, and I told him that I don't believe that artists are pastoring anybody. You know, like, I think that there's a difference, because there are individuals who are artists who are seen as influencers, and then they automatically get to tell people what to do or how to think or how to feel about just a variety of things in life. In the Christian space, that just translates to pastoring. You know, like, you start talking about Jesus, and now somehow you're qualified to help me grow in my relationship with the Lord.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And what if I'm just telling you about a really low point in my life, in my music?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not intended for you to grow. That's intended for you to relate to, or that's therapy for me. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna put that on me as like, yo, now you're my discipler. It's just like, if you meet me and you ask me to walk through some 6-week discipleship like conversation with you, I'm gonna say no. You know what I'm saying? Because I am not just a product to consume. You feel me? Like, do you know that I live a real life? You feel me? And that's just me thinking of it in an artist sense. As a pastor, it's not something I'm trying to be in my music. It's like who I am.
Right.
You know, it's like it is me. It's a part of me. So when I interact and build relationships with people, there may be times where I'll encourage or I'll speak into them in the same way that I would for anybody who I feel like is in a place where they need to hear from God and they need to know that God is with them. But it won't be me trying to like earn their trust or have some secret relationship that I can ultimately manipulate in the future and say, yeah, like, you know, people say like, yeah, I consider Taylor like my pastor and things like that. Now, okay, what if I get you in a corner somewhere and be like, look, man, as your pastor, like you said you think I'm your pastor, so I don't think you should release that. Like, nah, fam, like I'm not trying to convolute the roles that way.
Right.
Number one, the sentiment is nice, but being a pastor actually includes proximity and
Right.
like community, relationship, like where we're literally together walking through seasons of life.
Yeah.
And it's not just this idea like, man, you encourage me in this moment, and therefore I'm just gonna listen to your spiritual advice from now on.
And therefore,
Yeah, like, fam, that's not it. You know what I mean? Like, people really think that's what pastoring is that somebody gets up on a stage and says something that they agree with, and now they're trustworthy with their whole life.
Right.
You don't know me, and I don't know you.
Yeah.
So we got to be more careful with that. And so for that reason, literally getting to your question, I separate them as best as I can.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I try you see me, I'm not here rapping on Sunday mornings like, yeah, man, you want to hear my new song, and now I'm about to preach. You
Right.
feel me? Like that's, to me, like that's crossing worlds that I don't want to mess with.
Yeah. And like, here's what like I want other people to understand, like whether they're fans or just listeners or whatever. When you're, you know, and I agree, like I feel like, you know, those worlds are separate. You know, like I serve as a worship pastor, but cats ain't getting what I do as a worship pastor on wax. Like they're not just gonna get that type of music.
They may get moments.
Right. And that's exactly what I was getting to. Like the moments that come from that, like know that those are real moments, right? Like pastor, minister, like we have moments where like ministry has to go forth here, or something has to be said here. Like it can't, you know, like it's not just always about like you said, like getting off the bars or venting in the moment. Sometimes like the moments come and they're therapeutic moments, like for us and for the listener, right? And I think that's why they attach to it, right? Because it's like, yo, like they're not the only one going through that situation. Like they spoke to a situation that I'm going through as well, like as a listener or as a follower of your music. But at the same time, this is why like community and discipleship means so much in your own individual spaces, right? Like you gotta have it, like, and it has to be consistent so that you can decipher between the two. Like, yo, like I can't just like subscribe to anybody out there that says something that I agree with, right? Like when you go to your community, like there's the real there. Like there's people who care for your soul there. Like it's life and death here. Like you can't just be out here like subscribing to anything and everything just because it's an agreeable moment, right?
And let me say one more thing. When you think about how this whole thing is constructed, you build up these images of people, and they may be just trying to perform their Christianity just so you see them as a spiritually enlightened person, but there are careers and families on the line.
facts.
You know what I mean? Like, so when you force them to just continue in this model, and then at some point they say something that you disagree with or it doesn't sound like your spiritual hero, then their bills stop getting paid.
Facts. Facts.
You mean,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and you haven't presented the full scope of what it means to be a human being, let alone an artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's actually a dishonest example of Christianity.
Facts.
It's not even like what it means to follow Jesus.
It's not.
You know what I'm saying? So we, again, like these, it's not just about getting out there, being famous and being heard and having a platform. There's fairness and there's equity in that, and I think that we could do a better job of exploring that. But really, at the end of the day, I think it's about like being who we say we are in terms of the body of Christ, and we have certain integrity, we have certain values, we follow through in our commitments, we do our best to exhibit kindness. We don't just do things for the bread, like we don't just do things for the money.
Right.
And it doesn't feel like that's what we have now. Like to Armand's point, like now artists are now, we're doing the work. It's like we are responsible for making dope music and also being tastemakers.
Yep.
You feel me? Like we gotta be the tastemakers and introduce you. That's your job. You feel me? Like you don't have to go to the studio ever. You feel me? Like you tell people about them. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing that and making the music. Nah, dog. So apparently y'all see I had some stuff to get off my chest.
Clearly.
Speaking of third verse,
Came in on the remix.
Yeah, nah, but I think it's, these are conversations we guys always have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to like, because some of that gets convoluted in supporting your friends and like that sort of ideology where if you create it, then that means I gotta share it and I gotta tell everybody about it. Like that's almost like it's become a secondary responsibility. And while that has a responsibility to it, but at the same time, like, what happens if somebody doesn't share your music that you expect them to? Like, there's an expectation there, or if your stuff doesn't hit, it doesn't get the numbers that it normally gets. Like, there's a whole secondary thing that now you have to, what you were relying on the blogs to do, now you're relying on your homies to do it, and if they don't do it every single time, like, there's spaces of like tension, almost, where it's like, dang, or there's also spaces of obligation.
Yes.
You're like, this is my friend, and I ain't even heard this yet.
Yes.
But it's my dog, so I'm gonna post it, or this is somebody that, in some cases, I want to form a relationship with, because sometimes that happens too.
100%.
And sometimes it's okay, it's like, I always tell people, one of the reasons why I respect Taylor so much is that Taylor came up to me a few years ago and sent me a text that was basically like, will you be my friend? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, as a man, men don't do that.
Right.
We find a commonality and we just stay there.
Stay in the
And Taylor was like, yeah, we have this commonality, but I feel like this relationship is supposed to go deeper. Are you willing to pursue that with me? So there's that, but then there's also, Taylor got 20,000 followers on Twitter. Let me post this stuff so that he can see mine and he can switch.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side of that where you have the artists who are at those big platforms and they'll tell you, yo, I love your music, you're great, you're dope. They'll send you stuff, they want your feedback, they want your opinion, and you know why they want your feedback and opinion? Because you are able to go into the places where they cannot. There is value to that.
Yeah.
That I can go into the open mic spot and garner respect because people know who I am and what I do, and you cannot do that, and you want to do that. So you're gonna come to me and you're gonna try and get that street cred. Jay-Z does that a lot, but we won't get into that. Kanye does that, but we won't get into that. Like artists do, and there's nothing wrong with like keeping that young energy around you. Like it's cool, but like sometimes it's a little shame-sunnish. Like you can snatch your souls, but like. To other artists, but then they'll tell you in private, but they will not tell you publicly, and you'll feel away.
It happens all the time to where, there's this moment because, you may have this group of people or this person, they got this big following and they created this thing and they got to keep creating this thing, right? And then they see the respect and the responses, and it's like, yo, you find that I've been keeping this up, but I've been losing myself too, right? Like, maybe that's something where like I didn't find my why, or I didn't find, you know, why, you know, like I'm doing this anyway in the first place, and it's like, yo, you get lost in the sauce when it comes to that because, yeah, go ahead.
I was talking because, like Taylor said, there are families involved, and you got a bag.
You got
a couple bags.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm getting this from doing that. Okay, cool, I can keep that up. But after a while, that's not really who you are, and it sort of tapers off.
It's not the real. And go
Let
ahead.
me say this last thing, and then it ends up being where you want to be where they want, you want to be where they are, and they want to be where you are, and then you invalidate where you are because you're not there, and they're invalidating where they are because they want to be where you at.
Yeah.
You want a bag, but you also want to get going to the spot. It's a cycle.
It's a cycle, but this is why finding your why is so important. Why do you do what you do? Because it has to be okay with you first before anybody else can say that it's okay with them. Like, you're just accepting somebody's opinion on your music. So what's that gonna do? Like, you're just gonna ride that opinion? What if they have a different opinion of the next record you put out? So that's gonna shape and mold like every decision that you come up with because you don't have it solidified. So this is what I would say: if anybody has to like force themselves or like force you to or force liking you, like, you probably shouldn't do it. Like, it's probably not a calling. Like, you just in it to just be like following like this motto of something like if you gotta force people to like you, you probably shouldn't do it because you're gonna have to try to keep that up.
You shucking and jiving for lack of a better term.
I shouldn't have to you shouldn't have to try to force people to like you like in anything. You do what you do. People should see the reasoning just by you doing it. Like, it comes out of you. Like, you know, when somebody sees you, like, nobody has to like, oh man, you know what? You should keep preaching. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what? You should think about pastoring. Like, when you see this man preach, like, and how he cares about the body, like, yo, it's like whether you say he should or not, like, it just comes out. Like, nobody should force themselves like to like you or to push you into something that you don't even know what you're getting into, right? Like, you shouldn't have to do that.
And that happens. That happens on the parallel side. That also happens in the secular arena.
Yeah.
We'll look at somebody, especially in the 90s. In the 90s, when gangster rap took over, when it used to be, rest in peace, Andre Harrell, when it was all dance and Heavy D, and you know what I'm saying? The Chronic comes out, and that changes everything. Now all of a sudden, everybody's a tough guy. Granted, this is my favorite song from him, but when Hammer came out with Pumps to the Bump, nobody wanted to take him serious because it's Hammer, you know what I'm saying? The nicest guy in the world, from the streets, and you know Hammer got a reputation in the streets. But Hammer's out there dancing with 80 people, but he has a beanie on, high-tech boots, and some baggy jeans, and we're like, dog, that's not you. And it ended up not working because folks saw through that. So of course people are gonna see that in the Christian realm as well.
Yep.
We're like, oh, you doing another song like Turn Up, Turn Up for Jesus, another pep rally Christian song, like this what you, or Taylor and I talking about this, like, dog, you still complaining? Like, you ain't received no breakthrough yet. This is still like your lot, and you're in the exact same place, and this is what you're rapping about when it comes
Why would
to
I ever want to trust your Jesus?
facts?
Why? Because that's not something that I want to subscribe to at all.
If you're in the same cycle and it's not getting better, there's no power, there's no deliverance, there's no anointing, there's none of the other side, and all you have is wallow music. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna go listen to the artist that does wallow music the best.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm not about to listen to 15 artists who do wallow music.
Yes, I want to listen to a wallow artist who cusses. Like, I want to listen to a wallow artist who uses bad language, graphic language, because they're going to wallow.
I'm gonna listen to that.
Yes.
The way that I wallow.
Yes, in a way that probably everybody really wallows, but you get like diluted wallow in the Christian, and then there's no Jesus with it. Like, there's no deliverance, there's no uplift, there's no
resolve.
Oh, fam, you better give me Jesus for me to deal with this lukewarm wallow. Like, give me to the place where it's like, yeah, I gotta just end in worship, like,
Yeah.
or just keep it. We don't want that.
Lukewarm wow.
How you wild and lukewarm, dog? Because it's true.
Yeah,
It's
like,
true.
that is a genre.
Safe wallow, like and you know what? I'm thankful that I know brothers and artists who really think and feel this way. You know, it's not just us sitting here in our tribunal council judging everybody.
Right.
You know, but there's a lot of people who feel this way and think this way.
Yeah.
So I feel like in my season of life now, and the age that I am, the age we are,
Right.
like I fellowship and interact with mature brothers who've been through things. And as we reflect on things, you know, the older we get, it's like we should be more inclined to drop these jewels.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Again, it's about who's coming after us. We're setting examples, we're setting the stage, and there may be people who need to understand what it takes, or understand, just like we just talked about with The Last Dance.
Yeah.
People had to sit down, that younger generation had to sit down and watch Michael Jordan, something their dads used to talk about.
Yeah.
And then they had to learn, they got it directly from him in a way he was worried about. Like, man, did I say too much? Did I go too far? Is my portrayal going to be messed up? And then everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for being real, or at least giving us a picture of something beyond all of just like the highlight reels. So it's important for us to have these kinds of conversations. It's important for us to make sure that we are honest, even with our own hearts, as God is working on us, about the things that we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that we're maturing, that we're growing. Not just growing platforms, fans, you know, accolades, all this different stuff, but we're growing as people. Because at the end of the day, that's all we're going to be left with, is our reputation as human beings, as people, as who God sent us to be on this earth. And that reputation should have integrity, it should have character, and it should also have power and demonstration. Power and demonstration. I'm sorry, like I'm the way Christianity gets portrayed is almost like too mechanical, and it doesn't consider the power. The kingdom is not just about talk; it's about power. So let me just talk you through the epistles, but let me demonstrate the power working in my life. I'm about to preach. Let me end this, because this conversation is something that's so near and dear to us. It could go for a long time. But thank you guys for listening. This has been another edition of COVID Community. Hope y'all stay safe and stay blessed. Peace.